Hi, I'm Matt Ricks. I'm an Albertan living in the United States. I've been experiencing the Fort McMurray fires from a global perspective, the perspective of a different country.
Hello everyone, my name is Lynn and I'm from Ontario. I recall watching the flames forcing everyone to evacuate on the news and being shocked by the media footage, having a feeling of disbelief that this was happening. However, I was proud to witness our Canadian culture watching our nation unite and support the people who lost so much.
I am Heather Taylor from Calgary, Alberta. My parents are Newfoundlanders who migrated to Fort McMurray, Alberta for employment. I lived there for 18 years. My children were born there. My oldest graduated there. Fort McMurray will always hold a special place in my heart.
Hi everyone, this is Monique from Edmonton. With many coworkers and colleagues and my entire organization affected by the wildfires, I've seen many examples of exemplary personal leadership contributing to our national culture.
Hi there, my name is Megan. I'm currently living in Victoria, but recently moved from Kamloops, British Columbia, where I became very accustomed to the summer air filled with wildfire smoke. As I watched the news coverage on the Fort McMurray fires, I couldn't help but imagine if the same thing happened in Kamloops, where the same-sized town would be evacuated. It is unfathomable, but the impression of our nation rallying around a small town, caring for our own by extending a piece of ourselves in solidarity and support, has left a lasting impact on me.
Hello, my name is James White, and I was born in England to English parents, and I've lived there and in Indonesia and now in Canada, and here I am in Calgary teaching aviation to a culturally diverse group of students.
Living abroad, I am constantly faced with questions on what it means to be Canadian. Canadians are typically seen as being nice and extremely polite. While these stereotypes may hold an element of truth, they don't fully capture the Canadian mindset. In my opinion, Canadians have a deep respect for space. Maybe this comes from an abundance of land. Respect for personal space shows up as being polite to others, although it may also come off as being reserved. It is rare that you will see a Canadian on a cell phone in a baggage claim or in an elevator. This would be an invasion of someone else's space. This respect for others' experience also shows up in quiet collectivism. Instead of being with us or against us, multiple points of view are welcomed. In Canada, welcoming differences in others and multiculturalism are celebrated, as opposed to having subcultures assimilate. While there are many advantages to a highly tolerant country, it sometimes makes it difficult to pinpoint just what Canadian culture is exactly.
May 3rd was the usual spring day for Fort McMurray, the smell of smoke in the air from the forest fires burning nearby. At 10 a.m. that morning, I spoke to my friend Brenda to work out some details for my upcoming visit to Fort McMurray. As we were saying our goodbyes, she mentioned that she needed to go get her daughter at Sapray Creek because there was a fire burning nearby and she didn't want her to be stranded outside the city in case the baby decided to arrive early. The baby is due on May 29th. 2:30 that afternoon, I received a text and a picture from my sister who also lives in Fort McMurray. The text displayed flames within walking distance of her home. The message read, "We can see the flame. We'll let you know where we end up. Don't think we can get out of Fort McMurray. Love you both very much. Tell Mom I love her." Shortly after that, Brenda texted me a picture displaying a traffic jam and the sky was on fire. It read, "That's me trying to get out, but I turned around. She had to go north to Fort McKay because Highway 63, the only road out of the city, was closed." John Collard posited that in order to avoid a misunderstanding, there is a need to assess cross-cultural approaches when groups of people from different organizations are brought together to perform a task. Could this be a contributor to the mixed feelings from Fort McMurray residents regarding the timeliness of the evacuation and government help?
The Fort McMurray fires gives us a clear example of the many diverse organizational cultures that must intersect in order to provide optimal care for the city and people deeply impacted by this natural disaster. We can explore the concept of intersectionality to further understand the merging of cultural leadership. According to Capelda, 2013, he described intersectionality as the interactivity of social identity structures, such as race, class, and gender, in fostering life experiences, especially experiences of privilege and oppression. Further to this, we would like to suggest that we can use the concept of intersectionality as a lens in looking at the interaction between both the grassroots personal leadership initiatives and the bureaucratic leadership that is present within the organizational cultures of the institutions involved. The merging of these two organizational cultures has the potential to be very powerful, with a co-production of leadership between the Canadian people and institutions such as the government. While in many ways the merging of these two organizational cultures has been positive, there should be an awareness of the possibility that the intersection of the cultural values could prove to be challenging in the future. As people begin grappling for resources and rebuilding their lives, leaders should advocate for working in unison whenever possible, remembering the unity of our nation in supporting one another's causes, and strategically recognizing the common stakeholders in advocating for all people affected by this natural disaster, ensuring that the gap between privilege and oppression is minimized.
The culture of the Canadian Red Cross is a great example of global leadership and organization behavior effectiveness through their ability to influence a nation, motivate globally, and enable followers to contribute towards the devastation and relief efforts for the people in Fort McMurray. People across the country are generously making donations through the power of their effectiveness and leadership, and Jackson and Perry 2011 noted that in all cultures, leader team orientation and the communication of vision, values, and confidence in followers were reported to be highly effective leader behaviors. The Canadian Red Cross has been extremely effective in creating a unity of donations and global support, raising $86 million in 10 days following the devastation. And they have been communicating on what they are doing and what they will be doing in reporting to the public, resulting in creating a culture of trust, responsibility, transparency, and accountability to the donors. However, Jackson and Perry commented, cultures themselves change all the time through their own momentum and contact through individual participants with other cultures. On May 6, 2016, the Canadian Red Cross says people from across the country have come together to show their support and compassion for Fort McMurray.
A firefighter who battled the fires to save his neighbor's home while his own home burns. First Nations communities reaching out with offers of accommodation, clothing, food, and gas to evacuees while stranded on the highway. Syrian refugees giving back to their new country, collecting food and clothing because they knew what it was like to flee their home. Teachers who loaded a school bus with children to get them to safety. Hospital staff putting their personal lives aside to evacuate more than 100 patients. These stories of generosity, support, and kindness exemplify the unity that bonds Canadians in a culture of global leadership. Jackson and Perry identified global leadership as one which brings individuals together from diverse national and cultural contexts in a productive and ethical way without any one group dominating. The co-creation of leadership that emerged from this tragedy have contributed to the global perspectives of our Canadian culture.
Canadians take great pride in their national culture. What we seem to value most about our culture is its diversity, as well as our overall willingness to be open and accepting of different cultures, our desire to help those in need wherever they may be, and the sense that we are welcomed almost anywhere because of these things. Bennett, in 2004, described 6 levels of cultural sensitivity that an individual could attain, ranging from denial to integration. If our nation were an individual, then I think we would probably be at the point in his scale labeled acceptance, about which Bennett said, people with this worldview are able to experience others as different from themselves, but equally human. In times of crisis, such as the Fort McMurray fire, our innate humanity reveals itself as Canadians from all cultures throw open their doors to the displaced or simply offer whatever help they can. The many displays of leadership from individuals at all levels have reframed societal and organizational barriers so that everyone can best assist the evacuees. It is these cross-cultural interactions that lead our nation slowly towards an even greater level of cultural sensitivity. As Canadians co-constructing leadership, we create a more powerful national culture.